In these slides, I will demonstrate and give you an overview of chapters 5 and 6, which is decision making and organizational strategy. So more often than not, managers have to make decisions. That's really what management is all about. And decision making involves choosing between two or more alternatives. There are two main types of decisions that the book refers to. The first one is program decisions. These are routine, almost automatic decisions, and managers have done these many times, and so they kind of already know the rules or guidelines to follow. That's what I'll discuss first, which covers Chapter 5. Then when I get to the non-program decisions, those will be more focused on Chapter 6. Non-program decisions are really these unusual situations that have not really been addressed very often. So there isn't a blueprint to follow, and that makes these decisions a lot harder for managers to make. So for these program decisions, we really follow these simple steps in the decision-making process. A lot of times we don't think about them in these particular steps, but most of the time whenever we're making a particular decision, we follow these steps. We identify or define the problem, we identify decision criteria, we allocate weights to the criteria, we develop or generate alternatives, we analyze these alternatives, and then we select an alternative. After that, we actually implement it to see how it goes, and then we evaluate the decisions. So this first step, identifying the problem. Normally what happens is that we find out that there's a discrepancy between our existing place and where we desire to be. For example, when you decided to continue your education, there was a discrepancy between where you currently were with your education and where you wanted to be, which was having an undergraduate degree. So you didn't have one, you wanted to have one, and that was the issue. How would you solve that problem? The example that I'm going to follow for us today is an example of a manager at a car parts repair or car repair place. And this particular manager has noticed that there's a problem when their employees are trying to help customers solve their problems with the cars, and that they need more technology. And so if they had some type of tablet, they would be better off. Sometimes they try to use a computer, but it just doesn't work very well. It's too big. And instead of having everything on paper, they would like to be able to transfer that information directly into their system. And so to take out the step of having to enter the paperwork into the system, the manager believes that having each employee have a tablet maybe make their process better. So that's the problem. So the first thing the manager has to do is identify the decision criteria. What factors are important to resolving this particular problem? We know that costs are going to be incurred. We know that there's a chance of failure and there's risk with putting this type of technology in place, but we feel like it would be better. So what decision criteria do we need to make when finding a particular tablet to fit our employees' needs? For example, what I chose this time is that our manager is going to choose durability. They're going to be on the floor working with these tablets, and so we need something that's going to be rugged. It may not always be bright in there, so screen brightness is going to be a big issue for us. Their employees are going to be handling these tablets quite a bit, so we want to make sure there's some type of warranty just in case they break. We need good battery life so that they're not always trying to have to charge the tablets, that they can carry them around for a while and work with them. And then since they have specific software that they'll need to run, the tablet needs to be customizable. So these are the decisions criteria that they'll use in choosing their particular tablet. Once you have those decision criteria, the next thing to do is actually to assess or allocate weights to the criteria. So what's the most important thing on this list of decision criteria? So we need to assign weights to each item to kind of rank them. So here we decided that the most important thing is customizability. That's what we gave the highest weight, the greatest weight. That's a 5. Then we decided that durability will be 4, and so forth and so on. These are just general or random types of weights this time, but if you were doing this for real, you would really look at it to see which weights were most important. Then we'd come up with a list of alternatives. What are the most important, what are the tablets that are out there that could fit our particular needs? So we need to develop a list of alternatives, and we're not evaluating them at this point. We're just coming up with this particular list. So this manager chose to evaluate the iPad, Surface Pro, Samsung Galaxy Tab, NVIDIA Shield tablet, and then also the Google Pixel as a tablet. Once we know the criteria, we've weighted them, and we figured out the different options that we could come up with. So then we need to come up with what we're going to do. Just make this change. This should be alternatives. Great. So then we need to actually rank each tablet on these particular scale. Again, I just show some random numbers here, but we would rate them 1 through 5 on each one. For example, the Surface Pro on durability, when we went through and tested it, we found that we ranked that at 2 out of 5, so it got a fairly low rating. On the other hand, the Samsung Galaxy Tab has a great warranty, so we gave that a 5 out of 5. Once we've weighted each one and ranked each one, then we need to apply the weights. For example, this durability, we ranked a 4. Customizability, we ranked a 5, and warranty wasn't ranked very high, it was a 1. So how do we apply those to each one? Well, basically we multiply the weight by the actual ranking that we gave each one, and that gives us these numbers. So for example, that 3 that was here for the iPad on durability becomes a 12 because we multiplied it by the weight. That gives us the total numbers. All we do is add these as we go along, each number, and that gives us the total for each particular tablet that we ranked. And as we can see here, the NVIDIA Shield came out to be our highest ranked tablet. So we've selected this particular tablet to give it a try, the NVIDIA Shield. Next, we put that into order. We actually use it within our workplace to see if it fits our needs, and this is actually putting the chosen alternative into action. As we go through and we do this, the next step is to actually see if it worked, and if it worked to fit our needs, the next step would be to then evaluate it continuously to make sure it's still continuing to do what we need it to do. Okay, so those are more programmed decisions. As I said, those are those decisions that we've done over and over again. We can put those steps into action. But more often than not, managers are having to make more strategic decisions for the organization. So what is strategic management? That is the process of developing an organization's strategy. What are the plans for this organization? How will we compete? How will we go out and be successful as a company? This is very important for organizations because companies are continually changing. We work in an environment today where organizational change is the only constant. We know things are going to change quite a bit, and the more complex and diverse organizations become, strategy becomes that much more important. The real issue here is that many times companies are reluctant to change. They believe that they've been doing something for a while and it's been working for them, so it's hard to get companies to change plans, to change their course of action in order to stay relevant. So strategy and change go hand in hand. A couple of examples of that. Many of you may remember Blockbuster Video. Well, Blockbuster had the market on Friday night video watching. Everybody wanted to go to Blockbuster to find a good movie to watch. And at its peak, Blockbuster actually had 60,000 employees and over 9,000 stores. Netflix comes along, and actually at one point in 2000, Netflix went to and had a discussion with Blockbuster about Blockbuster buying them out for $50 million. That's actually very low if you think about how successful Netflix has been since 2000, and actually it's low when you consider that Blockbuster now is no longer in business. And so when you look at it from that standpoint, the decision-making process, the strategic management process of Blockbuster didn't seem to work out very well. They failed as a company at that particular time. On the other hand, if you look at a company like Lego, Lego is basically built off of these simple bricks. And in an era where kids are playing video games, games on their tablets, all types of options for toys and video games, Lego has stayed not only relevant, but a major player in the toy market. They figured out how to partner with different movies. So you get Lego sets for Jurassic Park, and now they've got the Batman movie that's coming out soon, or has already been out in the videos on video. And so we see how Lego has found a way to stay relevant. So their strategy has been very good, the decision-making process for this particular company. The book gives us these 3 steps of the strategy making process. Those would include assessing the need for strategic change, conducting some type of situational analysis, and then choosing the alternative, the strategic alternative to take. I'm going to break that down just a little bit more for us and say most companies start by reviewing their mission and understanding their mission and their goals. And by understanding that and who they are as a company, then they can analyze what is going on with their company from a SWOT analysis perspective. In other words, what are the company's strengths and weaknesses, and then once we know who we are internally, we can look into the external marketplace to see, based on our strengths and weaknesses, what are our alternatives, our opportunities, and our threats. We formulate some type of strategy, we implement that strategy, and then we evaluate the results. So as our example of an organization that understands and follows this process of looking at the mission, assessing who they are, and formulating, implementing, and evaluating results, I thought we'd look at Starbucks. Starbucks' mission is to inspire and nurture the human spirit, one person, one cup, and one neighborhood at a time. That mission talks about their customers being a person, their product being the cup, their geography is being every neighborhood they want to be in for Starbucks. And we all know them as a place that you can go get a cup of coffee, maybe tea, sit down, relax, talk to friends, maybe discuss a business deal, whatever, over a cup of coffee. So that's their mission. Starbucks has a good understanding of who they are as a company, what their strengths and weaknesses are, and then what some opportunities and threats are for them as a company. They understand that their strengths is in getting people to come in and enjoy a beverage, 1 cup or 2 cups of whatever it is that they want. And that they are very good at getting people in there at certain times of the day. You go in, they have peak times in the morning, maybe that mid-afternoon rush for coffee, but they also understand their weaknesses, and one of their weaknesses is their afternoon sales or their evening sales have been low. So that creates some opportunities and some threats. One of the threats to them are other businesses that can get people into their company in the evenings, but an opportunity for them is also that time frame in the evenings. Can they convince people to come in the evenings? They still have a great setting for you to sit in, but how can they get you to get drinks? Well, the first thing Starbucks tried to do when they were formulating their strategy of how to get people in there and to take advantages of those opportunities was to offer beer and wine. So they came up with this beer and wine selection in certain stores. And if you didn't know that, maybe they didn't have it in your area, but go look at some websites and you'll see Starbucks Evenings program. And they were offering beer and wine in some of their select stores. So they tried that for a few years. But just here recently, after they did that strategy, they implemented it, and when they started evaluating the results, they realized that it really wasn't working out well for them. So now they're back to the drawing board, and they're doing it again. They're sticking to their mission. They understand their strengths and weaknesses, and so their newest strategy is to try ice cream. Actually, it's going to be ice cream with perhaps a shot of your favorite espresso mixed in. Apparently this is done overseas quite a bit, and you can get some ice cream with a shot of espresso, and perhaps that will keep you there. So they formulated the strategy. They're going to start implementing this in the next few months, and then they'll also evaluate their results again to see if it's working well for them.